to be shared by our speaker today, Mr. Shenming Sang, right? He's the CEO of SWR Technology, previously with Qualcomm. He's also a community leader and serves as a board of director at Daniel Christian Academy. And he's also one of our mentors leading Mentor Circle for some time. With that, let's welcome Shenming.
Sorry, I just got unmuted. Sorry, Justin, and thank you, everybody. And very nice meeting you here online. We cannot give each other a hug, but hope the warm welcome message by our wonderful host, Justin, really make you feel at home. So we're talking about overcoming communication barriers. And I would like to announce a couple of heaven rule. We used to call it ground rule, right? And so here today, I would like to talk about the heaven rule. I mean, there's something you don't want to feel constrained or limited, but it's something I would like all of us, including me, myself, that we can aspire for and shoot for. So a couple of things. I would like to encourage us to step outside of our comfort zone. For example, video presence. Since we're talking about communication barriers and how to overcome them, I think today, even with the convenience of the technology, we can sit at our comfortable place and talk to each other. We are at a certain disadvantage that we can't really see each other. I'm having my video on, but maybe you don't. So you might be able to see me, but I really can't see you. So if at your convenience, when you feel comfortable, feel free to turn on your video feed, and so we can see each other. Number two, asking questions. So instead of treating this as a kind of one-way communication seminar, I talked to our wonderful coworkers. And so given a gigantic challenges, we'd like to make this session as interactive as possible. So therefore, I encourage you to ask questions at any time. If you never feel comfortable asking question, I encourage you to make a breakthrough and ask question today. If you never feel comfortable asking question in public, I encourage you to do so. Ask in public. If you never use chat to ask question, I highly recommend you to ask a question with a typing chat. Or if you never find enough confidence to shoot questions, asking English questions in public, is a great opportunity today. It's time to make a breakthrough, and it's time to step outside of our comfort zone. And if you really think it helps, and you prefer to ask question in Mandarin Chinese, good news is, yes, I understand Mandarin Chinese, and you can ask if that really helps you. All right. So this is kind of heaven rule just to get us started. Again, anytime, raise any question. So kind of to start with, talk a little bit about myself so you know where I'm coming from. I was born and raised in Taiwan. And after spending almost 10 years in industry in Taiwan, I was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship to pursue my advanced degree in East Coast here in the States. Unlike most students studying abroad with 2 suitcases, I came here with my wife and 3 children. And amongst the economic recession after September 11, 2001, I had one and the only one interview opportunity. And that opportunity led me to land a wonderful opportunity at Silicon Lab in Austin, Texas. And that's where my life journey in the United States started. And then went through NXP Semiconductor. ST Ericsson is a joint venture between ST and Ericsson. And then reaching Qualcomm. And that's where it led me to the Bay Area. After spending about 25 years in a corporate life, I made another risky decision, one of the most riskiest decision is to leave corporate life and start a startup. It's called SWR Technology, which started almost 4 years ago. My takeaway and to share with you, number one, life journey is never a straight path. Number two, there are always things worth giving thanks. Number three, most importantly, and that's why we are here today, the journey is an ongoing one. Along the path and journey, I'd like to share with you a couple of breakthroughs, especially breakthrough in terms of getting over the communication barriers throughout the journey I put in front of you today. Number one, I was able to host a meeting with colleagues from Europe. And to my surprise, I found their English is no better than mine. So there was one boost of confidence. I'm sorry to say it that way. To say, okay, I'm not the worst kid in the room. Number two, I realized I found this a huge sense of accomplishment that I was able to argue with a service representative about why my bill shouldn't be that high. And I was able to get them to lower my bill. Well, that's a breakthrough in my life, isn't it? And then life moves on. I was able to grow and start managing domestic and international teams. And of course, over the barriers of language, English is not my native tongue. You can see that. And through the journey of a startup, I need to learn to pitch in 30 seconds and to tell the prospective investors why the problem I was trying to solve is worth an investment and why I have the solution they should look at and why I'm the right guy to do the thing. That's all kind of challenges. So what I'm telling you here is, as it described in this slide, I like it a lot. In Philippians 3:12, it's not that I have already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. Press on. That's I want to encourage you and encourage me as we are still all together on the path of getting over communication barriers one after another. And we are on this journey together.
Excuse me, Shen-Ming, are you sharing any slides? I don't see anything being shared, or is it just me?
So Justin, could you confirm, am I sharing any slide?
No, actually, we see the join video or something there.
Thank you for raising the question. So I thought I was sharing, maybe was hijack. Okay, start my video. Maybe it was interrupted somewhere in between. So let me share my screen. I hope. Thank you very much. I thought the beginning encouragement really works. So people stop me. Okay, thank you. All right. Can you see my full screen right now?
It's coming up.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
thank you very much.
Our next mountain. Yep.
Thank you very much. So you missed my beautiful path kind of slide in the previous one. No problem. We can take time to do that. No problem. Okay. So what kind of barriers did you see in your next mountain climbing adventure? I don't know whether you're a big fan of hiking or mountain climbing. Well, maybe. Do you see the water, the mountain, the rocky road? These could be the barriers so visible and so clear that we saw there as barriers. But you know what? A lot of times our biggest threat typically come from the invisible barriers. And the invisible barriers include the perception, our own perception of our capability, is what Elaine last time talked about, our perception of ourselves. Can I do it? Do I really have the physical strength or tenacity to accomplish, finish all the way? Or will I die halfway? Our perception of the risk, the environment. Is it being too cold at night? I may not survive. Can I really sleep well at a tent at night? Or maybe sometimes it's our perception of others. What if I run into some guy halfway between, maybe their arm, maybe whatever bad thing may happen because other people. A lot of things not in this picture, but could run through our minds and could ultimately impact our decision. So what barriers do you see in your next communication adventure? Could it be speaking? Well, my English is not good enough. I'm not a native speaker. My pronunciation is never perfect. Enunciation, well, there's a lot of room to improve. I never practice to control my speaking speed. My volume is never loud enough. I don't have a pleasant voice. Oh, my body language. I wish I could smile so naturally like Elaine did. Or summarize my thought into a clear point was never my strength. Or could that be, I don't know what they're talking about. I couldn't understand. Sometimes because they speak too fast, my English is not good enough, or sometimes it's just because I don't have the professional background expertise to understand the jargons they're talking about. What are the barriers? Or sometimes could be as easy as we all sit together in the company meeting room. I never feel the courage. I like to talk, but I never feel the courage to raise my hand to participate, to contribute. I thought I have a good idea, but I just never bold enough to raise my hand or to speak up. Or even when I have the courage to speak up, I couldn't make myself understood correctly. People don't get it. People say, huh? Pardon me? Then I feel discouraged. I can't speak anymore. Or maybe it's because when sometimes give me some constructive feedback, I just couldn't respond positively. So the communication stopped. I don't know what's that. Which part captures the most with you? So Guowei, do you think it's a good time for us to start a poll so we can ask the participant to give us some insight about what they see as the barriers?
Xiaoming, unfortunately, I find out that the polling at this moment is not active for some reason.
Okay.
So I have to skip this one.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem. No worry. No worry. Appreciate it. Okay. So then let's talk about communication barriers. On the right top corner, you see abilities. That's a lot of time we see our communication barriers as being the ability. But in fact, that is only a small portion of our communication barriers. At the end of this talk, I will give you a live example and you will know what I mean. But here, I hope this pie chart can give you a clear view about the communication barriers we are all facing. Purpose. Do I really know why I want to go into this communication? You would say, hey, Xianming, of course. I know what I want to do. Otherwise, how would I want to communicate? Well, hang on a second. I have personally failed too many times. When I pick up a phone or when I start writing an email, or you know what, later I regret because I don't think I have a clear purpose of why I want to communicate. Sometimes our communication becomes our venting, our frustration. Is that really the purpose of communication? Think about it. Second, options. Okay, now I know why I want to communicate, but do I really know the options available for me? In what format is best? Is it one-on-one or is it group? Is it email? Is it phone call? Is it what, face-to-face? Or maybe in the COVID-19, meeting, online meeting? Have you thought about that? And when is the best? Maybe the time working best for you, not the time the best working for the other party or parties that you need to communicate with. Perception of myself. Do I have healthy self-awareness that I understand I can do a lot of things, I don't know everything? How about my perception of others? Do I feel them they're kind of have a bad intention, they have a bad stereotypes against me, I'm the victim, they're just shutting the door to me? I mean, I just can't do reasonable communication. What's your perception? Before you starting talking about all the abilities like you can pronounce, you can enunciate, or you can do all kind of perfect volume, speed, voice, there are a lot of invisible barriers standing between us and the communication goal we want to accomplish. Look at the first. Do you really know what you want to talk about? I hope you do by now. How about options? Where, when, can you wait? Sometimes we can't wait, especially if you're a parent, you feel so agitated or sometimes frustrated, you probably easily summon your children to give them a lecture. Can you wait? That scenario doesn't apply to parent alone. It applies to if you are any authority figure. You feel like you have the power, authority to determine when and how the communication should be conducted. Be careful, because we are all paying price one way or the other, either now or in the future. Perception. Perception is an invisible or subconscious interpreter for what we hear. Believe it or not, I trust we all have that experience. If you have a perception believing people have bad intention to you, just like David talked about, raised a very good example last time. If you believe people are malign to you, they're with bad intention, when you heard the horn on the road, you will feel agitated, very angry. Interpretation, it determines your interpretation. And it could be also be a subconscious filter for what we say. Even with all the good intention, with the whole heart, we want to do a good thing. But our perception of, let's say we think I'm inferior, or I have some pride, which I don't even know, that will become a filter, become a roadblock, serious roadblock for your effective communication. And what's even more is the drive for our attitude. Sometimes you might wonder, why am I so defensive in that communication? Or why am I so passive? I don't want to respond. You hope you could be more proactive. And they're all being determined without your understanding by the perception of either yourself or the others. I would like to say this, right? Whatever is inside a cup is what will spill out. So you might want to pretend or package outside to be very nice looking, but the moment it gets shaken, whatever is inside will get spilled out. That's why I liked these two Bible verses I'd like to share with you. In the Solomon's Song of Songs, as dark as I am, I know I'm lovely. We have to understand. I love the quote. I heard a lot of my colleagues talk in a professional conversation. I like it a lot. Is I know I can do a lot of things, but I also know that there are a lot of things I don't know. I can't do everything. This is a true and right, healthy self-awareness I like to myself and like to all of us here today to have. I can do a lot of things, but I can't do everything. So I definitely need help. So we're not perfect, but we are lovely. surely. We also want to have a healthy other awareness, like Elaine mentioned about last time too. Can I really value others? Really value others in humility. So now talking about a couple of mechanics about ability. Amount of pie chart, if you still remember, we have 5 elements. We're talking about the purpose and options. Then we talk about the perceptions. The last part of the pie chart is called ability. So how can I improve my pronunciation, enunciation, speed, and volume? Well, you have very, very simple tool, just right at your disposal. Using a smartphone or any speaker, any microphone, you can do a recording. How do I improve my voice and body language? Well, nowadays people is filming themselves and post it seems all day long. You have a lot of tools. You can take video recording of yourself and realize that. Anytime, yes, go ahead.
A question, what is
Yes.
the difference between pronunciation and enunciation?
Thank you, Goei. Yes, pronunciation, for example, if I need to sound apple, the correct pronunciation is all about the manner. Yes, pronunciation is about the manner you pronounce a word. For example, apple shouldn't be called apple because you might make people confused about, because the difference in vowel, you would make people misunderstand the word you're talking about. That's called pronunciation. And enunciation is called about clarity. Means if it's for a word, could you speak with clarity about each part of the word? For example, communication barriers. Can I say overcoming communication barriers? There are multiple syllables here. Can I pronounce them with a clarity that even if I speak fast, people can still understand? I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Goei.
Thank you.
All right, so the body language, these are the tools you can use, we can all use to improve our communication ability. Points, well, in order to be able to share and get people understand what you want to talk about, we might want to practicing summarizing our thoughts. Ability, comprehension. I found a very interesting and enjoyable, I hope you find it enjoyable too, exercise is listen to the Supreme Court argument, oral argument, the 60 minutes. You'll be amazed by how the Supreme Court justice, they are grilling and challenging the attorneys and prosecutors on the stage in the court, as very entertaining. At least I found it so. I hope you enjoy that. And that's a good way to practice your listening comprehension. As for context, in order for you to understand what people are talking about in the professional world, you just need to do some preparation. Before we go on for a business meeting, in order to catch on any clue customer might reveal intentionally or unintentionally, we need to do a lot of background study. That's a background knowledge. Now, let's put into action. The purpose of this talk and my passion was to help you and myself to go through and overcome the communication barriers together. And what I found out is most powerful weapon to remove the communication barrier is the most powerful excavator is praise. If you start praising someone in the beginning of the communication, you make things a lot easier. And you will be able to do that if you really truly have a right, healthy other awareness of other people. Means if you have a right perception of other people, finding good thing, finding strength of the other parties to praise is very easy, because each of us have a lot of strength that is worth praising. And that's why I like some 119 and 18. Open my eyes that I may see wonderful things in your law. What's good about law? I mean, well, God's law created this world. What's good thing about that? We need God to help us to open our eyes. A lot of times, to be honest, I'm like you. I can't see the beautiful things. All I see are the impassable barriers. So let me share with you a life story. In fact, it happened just yesterday. It's very fresh. I think God is very interesting, always prepare me something fresh before my service. The background is, so I had, I
Xiaoming,
have to, yes, go ahead.
there's a question in chat room.
Okay.
He's asking you, what do you mean by excavator?
Okay, thank you, excavator. I really appreciate there's some live question going on. I apologize, I can't see that, and thank you, Glory, for reminding me of that. Excavator is the picture here, right? Excavator is the one who the most powerful thing that could take away the barriers, and you see that and work in all the construction site. It's right on this picture, excavator. 中文叫做挖土机啊 if that helps.
Sure. I hope we answer the question from Angela.
No problem. Thank you, Angela. Okay. So I want to talk about this impassable barriers. Please keep the question coming, okay? I want to talk about this, keep the impassable barriers. This has happened between me and my grown-up daughter. So I won't be embarrassed to share this because it was my problem, right? So it has been going on for a while. I haven't been able to find a good way to address it. So this is what happened yesterday. And before we start the story, I need to remind you, and this is also the bloody lesson or very precious lesson I learned at home and at workplace. Sometimes we probably don't see that as damaging or as a kind of a immediate consequence of the poor choices we made at workplace. Because at workplace, people still operate with certain, I would say, the safe zone. But this safe zone doesn't exist at your home. And that's why it's also a very, very nice and good place for us to practice and perfect our way of our test, measure our progress in our capability to getting over the barriers, communication barriers. So remember, showing respect. If you want to have a communication with the other party or parties, when and where is not a one-side decision. It got to be bilateral, decided by both parties. In other words, don't just do it because you are the authority figures. You might want to make sure it works for everybody. So there's a good start. And number two, by showing respect, that means you could accept that communication could end at any time. I say, no, Xianming, you got to be wrong. I have a clear goal in my communication, right? I want to get this figured out. I want to sort these things out right out there. And today we got to get it done. Which means I think that's good in terms of execution. That's great attitude. But however, in terms of communication, be careful. Your determination in achieving certain goal in that communication might derail the communication completely. I trust a lot. If your parents here, I trust you probably know at firsthand, know from bottom of your heart, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is how the communication starts. Because I know she didn't like me to knock on the door or just kind of give you a present threat. So the first thing I did is I call her. Yeah, because shelter in place, you have a lot of kind of adult children with come back stay with you. So you still make a phone call, even if they're really just close by within less than 20 feet. Praise it. okay, make sure, okay, can you talk now? Okay, if not, when? Great, okay, I'll be here. No problem. Set a time and determine where to meet. And now to start with, I need to start praising the capability. I said, I know you are very capable in communication. And I think I'm going to give a talk about getting over the communication barriers tomorrow. I know that you have the capability to communicate, and I have the capability to communicate too. Okay, I think that's the first step. We got to make sure we have the capability to communicate. And second step, we have to recognize there are challenges. So I start with saying, I think there are communication barriers between us that we can't communicate as well or at ease as we like to. Do you agree? Well, yeah, she nodded her head. Yes, we agree. There are barriers. Very good. Then I need to let her know. And from my message, I need to talk about the challenges on me, and it's solely because of me. It's nothing specific to her. When we describe the challenges, we don't want to describe in such a way people feel like it's all their faults. And then, unfortunately, I have to tell you, the communication will just break down right there. No. When we talk about the challenges on me, I know I'm that kind of person. I need to make it very clear. I'm that kind of person. I care about people's acceptance. I do need people's acceptance. I noticed this since I'm a very, very young child. I noticed that. It's just me. So when you, for whatever reason, are not willing to talk to me, I don't know what the reason is, or I feel like the door was shut, I think that kind of hurts me pretty badly. And so to me, and I have to tell you, this is nothing specific to you. It's just me. It's really about me. Now, because of you are my daughter, my inability to communicate with you really hurts me more. It's all about me. Okay. I hope could you understand? I got a confirmation. Yeah, it seems to be understandable. Very good. And so then I'll ask her about what did she see as a barrier, a challenge on her side. So the communication door obviously opened up. Very good. And then the next question I need to ask. Building on the consensus on the desire to address the challenges. You might ask, Xianming, what are you talking about? Be careful here. Because even if people recognize the challenges, like you both agree there's a communication barrier, does not mean the other party is willing to address them now. So in other words, unless I get agreement, a consensus that she thinks it's also important for her to address it, I cannot continue the communication. And the communication will have to end here. That's what I said earlier. You have to accept what a communication could end at any time. Otherwise, if the other party, even they recognize the challenges, they don't want to solve right now, it's not their priority in their life right now, you might just as well stop there and pray and find a better time to continue the conversation based on a good foundation you just built up. And luckily, yesterday, when I asked whether she think this is an important thing that we should be working out a solution, and I got a confirmation and the positive answer, yes. With that, we go to the next step. Discussing potential solutions. So I just went through this with you in a very quick sequence, and I want to share with you. It's a seemingly impossible barriers to me, but I thank God for blessing me, being able to go through this journey and we be able to share with you this, I call it a fresh testimony and story. And I hope that could encourage you, because this seems to be one of my rare success story, but I want to share with you, and then you can get encouraged. So when you fail, just like me, most of the time, keep pressing on, keep pressing on. All right. Okay. So last, I want you to talk about 2 quick slides very quickly. I'm serving here at Cloud, but as a part of my service, I've been and for professional, and I've been also serving for the high school and for college and young professionals, and that's why they call it CCE and CCE Pro. What does this has anything to do with what I'm talking about today? They all depends on what CCE means, because in CCE we talk about communication and career exploration. And I found it extremely, extremely important that we have the capability to communicate, because it helps and is the foundation for us to pursue our career exploration. With this, I'd like to conclude my prepared talk today, and I'd like to open up for any questions. I believe I'm 4 minutes ahead of schedule. I think that's good because I want to make this as interactive as possible. I'm going to stop my sharing. Oh, go ahead.
Justin.
Yes, yes. So thank you, Shen-Ming, for sharing all these tips with us. And now the floor is open for any questions that you may have. And we actually really encourage you to either raise your hand or turn on your mic and just speak. Thank you.
Also, turn on your video because that's one of the communication barrier.
Thank you, Corey.
So just turn on your mic if you have questions. Raise your hand also if you want, or you can type in your questions in the chat.
Okay.
So Jerry,
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes, Jeff, please. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I think Ted was also asking, but let me get this out.
Go ahead.
I think thank you, Ted. So I think there, Shen-Ming, I think in the personal examples you've cited, which is actually very helpful, but I think there are different types of conversations, communications. The ones we have with those who are closely related to us, such as extended family members, or our spouses. And then there are others whom we work with closely, but we are not necessarily closely related. The reason, at least there's 2 types, because the first type, when we are closely related, then we tend to have even stronger emotional sentiment inside when certain incidents took place. So I like to ask you how you deal with internal emotional sentiment, because I think one of the barrier is that if we do not deal with internal sentiment properly, we do not come across as warm and ready to re-engage. So I'd like to ask a question.
Thank you, Jerry. Excellent. Yeah, Jerry is a wonderful speaker and mentor who I admire very much. Appreciate it. Yes, I would use a word called circumcision. We call it internal circumcision. 中文翻成中文 in Chinese called 割礼叫中文叫割礼 which means yes. In this, I found it. In fact, I found a communication with closely related, especially kind of relatives, or who, and especially challenging because of this sentiment, because we have some expectation. And
right.
So I do believe, so that's the expectation. That's why I say in the beginning, I used to use, I consider myself as authority figures. A lot of times you consider you have the right, you have the power to start a communication anytime you think, because you're doing for their best. So they should be ready to accept your best intention anytime. And I think that's all to me is a wrong expectation, because it go against one fundamental rule, respect. I believe there's a lack of respect because of our sentiment. We tend to easily lose our respect. And I am learning that as I see, because I found it much easier to respect a quote unquote kind of a stranger than respect my own daughters, for example, in these cases.
Okay, so allow me to ask one follow-up question. And my goal is not to embarrass us because we're here to share, but try to learn what do you do to reorient yourself internally, readjust expectation, step back through prayer, through Bible verse reading, through worship, or through what? I'm asking a question because I've had the similar barriers in the past with closely related to us. And I found in my case, if I do not deal with that sentiment internally, I will not come across doing well outside.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, that's exactly correct. If I could summarize it very shortly, you could have a knife ready to do circumcision for decades long. Unless it really cut it, it won't help you. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I do believe I come back to a lot of struggle through my prayer, through a prayer along with my wife together, with my spiritual partners together to help me, to strengthen me. A lot of time I know I just couldn't do it. I admit I couldn't do it. However, God gave me the strength that I can grow, strengthen me. So whatever impossible, so 2 steps, Jerry, if I can summarize in this way. Number one, I got to see the possibility. Number one, unless we see it, it's not going to happen. So first is similarly impassable, but is possible. That's why I want to share and open up with you guys that could be encouraging. Number one, it's indeed possible, even with people like me. Number two, we just need to take it and circumcise about that respect. And because you find a way that works best for you. For me, respect is something I can put myself on accountable for. So I use that as a standard to hold me accountable for that. And I do believe for different people, there might be different tool that works best for them. So that is for them in the journey to find it out. I hope that kind of address your questions. Very, very excellent questions. Yes, I trust everybody else got a very good answers. If you'd like to share with the audience how you overcome these barriers, please feel free to share. I'm looking forward to learn myself too. Thank you.
All right, can I ask a question? Yeah. Let me see. I pronounce your name is correct, right? Ming, right?
If you don't mind, I will give you a joke. You'll never forget about my name.
Okay. All right.
In ancient times, people see the emperor. They see Emperor Huangshang Shengming. That's a 2 word.
All right, got it. Okay, Shengming. All right, that's a joke, right? So seriously, that's very helpful, and I got a lot of input from you, right? So exactly, I'm more interested in your story with your daughter. Sounds like you don't have the conclusion, or you just give a beginning, right? So exactly, that I said, it's in the pandemic. This is a very common story or common thing we're heading to at home, right? So 3 months and even 3 more months were coming, right? So I'm scratch my head, we're fighting. My daughter, the same thing. She's in college and come back second year, right? So for the whole term. Now, we're at the beginning, we have very good relationship and talk nicely each other, but soon, the relation getting ice colder, and just like I said, shutting the door, and another excuse is we need the sheltering home, right? So basically not talking to me, right? Okay, anyway, this is just survey. I think your staff is very helpful and how to improve it, open our own mind, right? So listen, it's not easy to do, right? So as parents always say, okay, I need you to do this, do that. Why you don't do it, right? So that's my attitude, but I try to improve, right? yeah, like Jerry said, like by prayer and of course we all Christian, right? So we have the heart, but it's not easy. Yes, honestly, it's not easy. Particularly, always thinking, yeah, you're still kids living at home. I want to help you, right? That's the point, but exactly the other way, right? So anyway, I want to know your story at the end, right? How your daughter accept your talk and how to improve, right? So that's going to be help a lot, right? Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think that did a good example that openly talk about giving feedback, make this a two-way communication. Really appreciate it. So since Ted asked, I would follow up this. And so in fact, I was able to, since I talk about the challenge on my side, I said, what's worse for me? Because in communication, what you turn to find is people want to get away from conflict. Nobody like conflict. So they would do things to avoid. And do you know why she would avoid talking to me? She don't want to get me mad. She doesn't want to agitate me. She's out of good intention. So I need to tell her, you know what hurts me more? You not talking to me hurts me much more than your words that you don't intentionally, but sometimes you say something might hurt somebody else. If you do that, you just apologize. That's okay. Just like me, I did a lot of mistakes too. I made a lot more mistakes to you than you did to me. All I need to do is I just need to apologize. But then her question back is, even if I apologize, it still doesn't settle immediately, right? I say yes. Just like if I make a mistake, it's my responsibility to admit the mistake and apologize. But however, I have no right to ask the other party to immediately forgive you right at the moment.
Right.
That's their right. I can't. So yes, you would take time, but you know what? All we can do is do the part on us. If I make a mistake, I apologize. If you make a mistake, you apologize, but never shut down the door, because to me, you're shutting the door with me is the one hurts me the most. So I think the conclusion works very well with a mutual understanding. But back to, are we going to have run into another barriers and challenges later in the future? I assure you, yes, because we are human beings, we're sinners, we're not perfect. However, we don't lose hope. And with this success, we know we can work out the challenges and barriers. That's most critical. I think that's very, very encouraging, at least to me. I hope that helps you too.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hey, can I have a question?
Sure.
If we should hear. Yeah, thanks, Sammy. I enjoyed the seminar. I feel myself has all the barriers you listed. And in addition to that, actually, I feel the way when I deliver the information in English, I cannot deliver in the same way. The tone sounds more gentle. Sometimes I feel it is totally different feeling, especially to those native speakers. I'm not sure whether you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any suggestion?
Sure. I know there are a lot more qualified speakers here and presence here could give you more help. My 2 cents. I do believe the tone, our tone, reflects our perception of ourselves. I do believe so. Let me give you an example. I know very clear when I am full of love and compassion with somebody versus when I want to deliver a information, I deliver in totally different tone. Do you see what I'm saying? If you understand you're talking to a person, to a people, you're talking to that person. Otherwise, we typically fall onto, we try to make our information concise and clear and very understandable. And you know what? The moment people ask you back a question, you say, huh? I spent all the efforts trying to make it so easily understandable, you still don't get it? We start getting frustrated. So that you see how the good intention could turn into a bad cycle, vicious cycle. So again, that's why I say invisible. to be honest, I believe your English is very, very understandable. I don't see that as a barrier.
Okay.
Whether you see the party as a person you're talking to, I think that's something you, me, every one of us could benefit from, always recognizing we are talking to a person.
I see. So you mean there is actually a perception I have when I talk to somebody. Like the way I talk with my kids is totally different from the way I talk with my husband. Oh.
So you know the perspective when you see as a person. So when you talk to kids, you believe the thing is, thank you for raising the example. The moment we talk to our kids, unfortunately, I found it myself. I don't know about you. Within seconds, I turn myself into an authority figure. I'm not talking to a person anymore. We are so good at abstracting the relationship that we can take the human side out of it, out of any communication.
Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Let me actually maybe also add to that. So I think in addition to what Shenming said, there's another perspective. Let me give you an example. My wife came to the US from Taiwan when he was in grad school. So she obviously isn't a native speaker, but I can pretty obviously tell when she's on the phone with someone speaking Mandarin versus when she's on the phone speaking with somebody on using English. I can somehow very easily tell that she usually speaks louder and more excited when she speaks English, right? And my interpretation perception of this is she thinks that when she's speaking English, she might not be speaking clearly or getting through to the other person. So she, I guess, unconsciously, raises her voice and sounds very excited and like, and sometimes when I walk by, I say, okay, calm down, slow down, right? So I think, that's perhaps something that you can remind yourself when if it's a kind of impromptu, right, unplanned conversation, you mentally remind yourself, okay, let me just calm down, slow down, and just speak, clearly. Or if it's a planned communication, meaning a presentation or whatnot, practice ahead of time, right? Practice it, to your kids, to your husband, to a mirror. I think if you practice more, you will be more confident. And then when you actually deliver the message, I think you will find yourself to be in a, calmer and more friendly, and remember to smile, right? So I think if you're more confident, you're more comfortable. I think when you deliver that message, you'll be better received as well.
Thank you, San. I think I got your point. So I think during the conversation I had with the native speaker, I spent more effort on what to deliver instead of how.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference if I talk with in Chinese, I don't have that conversion issue.
Exactly. Right. So therefore, if you can overcome the what's by preparing ahead of time if possible, then you can focus on the how.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. That's an excellent contribution here. Yeah, I really enjoyed this multiple party. So to make it turn into the forum, everybody can contribute and can ask and share, and I can also learn from that. Thank you.
All right, all those were great questions. Are there anyone out there that would like to give it a shot? Because we're coming to the end. So for those of you who still have questions, don't be afraid. Just speak your mind.
So Justin, is there any posted question on chat that has not been addressed that we want to use the time to do it? And also at the same time, as I said in the beginning about the heaven rule, I encourage us all kind of take a challenge, kind of step outside your comfort zone to do something you never did before. If you never speak up in any Zoom meeting and public meeting, now maybe it's the best chance to do it now.
Okay, there's a question here. I don't know whether it was addressed earlier, but it says that you may control your communication skill intention, but what if the other person talks to you in his or her own strong way?
Thank you. I do believe that's how we sense the moment I feel people are talking to me in a very strong way. There are two things. Number one, there's objective truth. He or she is indeed talking in a very strong way. But their second part is how do you perceive the strong talking? Do you consider strong talking as because of his or her nervousness? For example, in Wei Shi's example, or in Sam's example, we heard in a couple of occasions, people respond to certain things, certain scenarios in different way. Maybe it's nothing specific to you, but if you take it very personal, you might be on the wrong track, potentially turn that into a vicious cycle. So I think it's absolutely correct. So if you feel like the things you've been talked to kind of trigger your hot button, your hot button got pressed. We did all the time, right? I was touched a lot of times. And so my best recommendation for you is I was practicing, I would say pray before, during, and after. Seriously. Because is my old self always in a way to do the things I don't want to do, to respond in a way I don't want to respond. So when I talk about pray, in between the conversation, I was talking about my old self, my old habitual response will not be in the way, in control all the time. So that way, everything we discussed today, all the good things you heard from before could be to your assistance, even in that difficult moment. I had one example that once I went to a business meeting. Within 5 minutes, I know the meeting is going to end because the other party told me upfront what we talked about before the meeting, and that's supposed to be the subject we need to discuss, is not interested anymore. So I could have ended leaving the meeting right there within 2 minutes. So I was praying. And what happens, long story short, and so I was given a different thought, not taking that as a sense offensive, because I could have come back and say, how could you do this? Isn't this what brings us to this meeting? It's not about rationing time, no. It's about creativity. So I think God created us to be very creative. So we'll be able to come back with a very creative suggestion. So what ends up happening is we talk about even bigger opportunity because of that. I just tell you that. Yes, it's a challenge. There's a lot of challenges, but we are learning and we are doing this together. Thank you.